Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing the next review in my palette roulette series in which I pick a palette that is in my collection that might also be in your collection, utilize it for a week and come back to you and share with you my experiences with that palette, show you some looks that I created with that palette, and then we pick another palette. Today we're going to be reviewing the Ace Beaute Nostalgia palette, and I am super excited to go over that with you. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, please keep on watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I am a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. I also work in the beauty industry as a district leader for Ulta Beauty, so I get a lot of education in my position. I like to bring that education to you through things like reviews. I also do product panning and empties and all the regular beauty channel stuff. I also just really like to talk about makeup. And if you like to talk about makeup, I'm sure that we can be real quick friends here on this channel, and I hope that you'll want to subscribe before you go. With that said, let's move into this review of the Ace Beaute Nostalgia palette. For those of you who have heard it in my voice, who are not new here, who understand that this is not how I sound, I am sick. I have been sick. No, it's not, you know, it's not that. I have tested like 4 times. It is definitely not that. It is just, I believe, probably allergies that led to a sinus infection. It's been very windy and kind of hot and cold here over the last several weeks, and last week it snowed, which is crazy, and then it's been raining ever since. So I am a little bit sick. I hope that that's not offensive to anybody. I did need to get this recorded, so I am recording today. With that said, let's roll into this. This is the Ace Beaute Nostalgia palette, and you guys, I did receive this, I think, maybe in a FabFitFun, I'm not really sure, but I had an affinity for Ace Beaute over the last year. I decided to pick up some palettes that I got at the FabFitFun edit sales. Unbeknownst to me, they were changing their formulation at that time, so all of my palettes are from the old formula. But man, I'm telling you, if this is the old formula, I cannot imagine what the new formula is like, because I really did not struggle with this old formula. So I can typically make most everything work, but this honestly is not a bad formula, even from the old formulation. I kind of wish I had the new formulation to kind of give you some comparisons about, but I don't. So that's where we're at. So this is the Ace Beaute Nostalgia palette. The front of the palette just kind of looks like this. It's got those, I think that they're kind of like Hawaiian flowers with like what they make leis out of almost, and then some real big palm fronds. And then the back of the palette is just the deep dark evergreen green, and then the inside of the palette looks like this. It does have a really nice mirror on it, and this is the color story that you're getting with this palette. This palette does come in at $38.99 regular price. It is currently on sale on the Ace Beaute website, and I do believe it's the new formula for half off that price. So something like $19.59 or something like that. This is a beautiful palette. I do suggest that you pick it up for that $19.59 if it's something that you're looking at. It only has a star rating on the one website. So it only has a star rating on the Ace website, and that star rating is 5 stars, but it does have 90 reviews, and there are some 3 and 4 star reviews to go along with that. None that are 1 and 2 stars. So it kind of makes me feel a little wonky about it, but it is what it is. I do think that that is quite a few reviews that lead into that 5-star review. This is a cruelty-free palette, and it does have 15 shades, as you guys can see, and these shades have 2 different formulas. So you're only getting mattes or shimmers in this formula. There are only 3 shimmers in this palette, so they are this one here, this one here, and this one here. I do think that those 3 shimmers really lend well to any color story that you want to go with. I do have this one here on my eye look today with the gold tap just into the center of my eye look. And I use this gold to tap into the center of many of the eye looks that I did with this palette. So there are 12 mattes, 3 shimmers. I personally like a little bit more of a 50-50 mix as far as mattes to shimmer ratio goes, but I didn't find myself wanting much more out of this palette as far as the shimmer goes, except for maybe a champagne-y tone. And this is definitely kind of a summer themed palette, although I do think that it is a beautiful like spring palette as well. It kind of reminds me of Easter and Easter eggs, which is fitting because I wore this palette over the Easter weekend. I do think that it is best with primer. I also think it is best with like a white based primer or a primer that really mutes out any kind of tones that you have on your eyelids. I know I have some veining on my eyelids that I like to kind of mute out. My skin is also very olive golden, so I like to mute out specifically the skin tone on my eyes when I'm going into shadows like this that should be vibrant and more vivid as far as color story goes. But I didn't also find them any less pigmented if I went in with just like a sheer primer or a yellow tone primer either. I did like them best though with a white primer. These do have a little bit of staining that occurs on the lid if you're using these 2 shades here, or these 2. So I guess these 4 shades. The green I didn't really see any kind of staining with, and this deep eggplant I really didn't see any kind of staining with either. So just really these 4 shadows here. I didn't really experience any kind of fallout with these shadows either. And there's not really a lot of dustiness in the pans either. I think that you can see that I have used every single shadow in this palette, and it really doesn't look like I've leaned into any of them. So they are very hard pressed, but that's not lending to any kind of dustiness in the pan, which typically does happen with hard pressed. It also doesn't lead to any kind of fallout all over your face, which would be difficult with this kind of color story, to be honest. These are very blendable and they are very buildable, but you have to be very, very slow processed at it because they can get a little bit patchy. And maybe that's why they did a whole new formulation for their palettes, because if you don't work in very baby steps, then you will see some patchiness occur. One of my favorite eye looks with this is really just taking like whatever color I want and tapping it all around like the inner corner to halfway over, and then tapping a different color from the outer corner and halfway over, and then kind of tapping them to blend them together. That is what I did with this eye look. That's what I've done with many, many eye looks from this, but I do think that this is a perfect Instagram worthy eye look palette because of just this sheer saturation of the colors in this palette. They are so bright, so vivid, so beautiful, blend quite nicely, but also build quite nicely, which is great for a palette. I think this, because of the saturation of the colors, could work well on both dark skin tone and light skin tone equitably. I think that they don't really dull out dependent on, you know, whatever color you're putting underneath them. Like when I was talking about the primers earlier, I said I liked them best with a white primer because it really lended to the vividness of the shadows. But I have used them also with a darker eyeshadow primer underneath and they're still quite vivid. So the ones that I don't think are as vivid as they could be is this yellow here. Is what's on my inner corner, but it looks very much like I put this yellow on my inner corner. It's just very, it got very orange as I put it onto my skin, and maybe that's just how it's reacting to my skin tone, but I just don't think it's as yellow as I would love it to be. And this shade here I think is pretty worthless in this palette, if I'm honest. It doesn't show up on my skin very well. I would hesitate to believe it would show up on many people's skin very well unless you're a very dark tone and you're using this as your inner corner highlight. That might be good. But I think that that yellow and that very tan or quasi skin toned color, if you're the same color skin as this, are pretty worthless in this palette. Those are the 2 worst in my opinion. I wished that this gold shimmer in here had been a lighter tone, or even had they turned this into a shimmer, I think that that would have been better. Having kind of a tan champagne tone shimmer would have been better than this matte one that they put in here. This gold, I think, is a beautiful gold, but I'm just not a gold person, so I would have much preferred a champagne tone one that has a little bit more like white base to it, a little bit more stark than the gold base. That's all this palette really lent to me wanting for. I felt like there was a lot of depth in here. There's a lot of variation in here. I feel like you could get a good everyday wearable eye look out of this using like these two shades. This yellow would even be okay because it kind of filters into more of an orange base. This shade here and this brown give you a really great like everyday wearable, work appropriate eye look, and then you also have all the colors. So I do think that it's got quite a bit of variety of eye looks that you can pull from this one palette. Is it a one and done palette? No, I don't think so, but I do think that it is a great palette for anybody who is a color lover who also needs something for everyday appropriate work looks, if that is what you need. I work at Ulta, so I could wear this every single day to Ulta and nobody would look at me like I was crazy. But if you work in an office setting, I have done that before. I know that you need like a little bit dulled down eye looks. I do think that this palette would provide that for you. With that said, let's go ahead and swatch these. I do think for the most part, they all feel very silky in the pan also. And I'll show you the kick up here in a second, but we've got this one first. This is Beach. It is a matte beige. And like I said, I do think that this one was pretty worthless in the palette because everything else is just so vibrant. I can see this being useful in blending out the deeper brown in this palette, but I don't think the deeper brown in this palette needs a blend out shade. With that said, I would have loved for this to have been a shimmer versus a matte because I do think that this color would have been a really appropriate lighter toned shimmer. Then we have this shade here, which is called Popsicle. It is just a matte orange. It is a really beautiful orange. Then we have this one, which is our first shimmer. This is the shimmer on my eye look today, and this is called Stargazing. It's a metallic peach. Then we have this color here, which is a matte green or like a jade green color. And then we have Water Slide, which is the matte yellow. And I think this first row would actually make a really beautiful eye look, but noting that that first shade, Beach, is really, it's just not a shade that I see being productive in the eyeshadow palette. This is the amount of kick up that you can see in the green there. And that's about all that you're gonna get out of this palette. It's not bad by any means. The second row, we have this one here, which is called Heat. It's listed as a metallic pink, but I think it looks very red actually in an eye look, so I call it a metallic red. Then we have this one, which is a matte purple. It's kind of got this like eggplanty shade, and it is called Raspberry. Then we have Picnic, which is a matte like hot pink. Then we have Camping, which is actually a matte red. And I think that it kind of pulls very red in an eye look too. Sometimes you don't get that with a matte red. And then we have Fun, which is the matte gold. And you can see that that is a very yellow gold. Okay, I'm gonna do the other swatches right here so that I can show you all of them all at the same time. So then we have this shade here, which is called Flower, and it is a matte mauvey pink. I love this shade. It was really, really pretty in an eye look. Then we have this one, which is called Vacation, and it is a matte bright orange. Then we have this one, which is a matte orchid, and it is called Flip Flops. Then we have this one, which is a matte purple, and it is called Carnival. Then I'm going to put this one right next to the beige, and this one is called Hiking, and it is a matte brown. So those are all the shades in this palette, and I think that you can see that there is a lot of variation in this palette to be had. You can get some really great work appropriate eyeshadows with maybe just a pop of color. I don't think it's a one and done eye palette like I said, but I do think for the color lover who needs that work appropriate eye look, this would be a very appropriate palette for you. I do think that Ace Beaute has some really beautiful color stories, And if I'm honest, like I posted an Instagram picture of one of the eye looks that I got from this palette. And I think I put in that, Instagram picture in the content underneath it, the comments underneath it, or, the words that I put with that picture. Like if this is the old formula, I need to have the new formula in my collection because I just don't think there's anything wrong with this formula. And like I said, I do think that there is potential for this to get patchy if you work too quickly, but I also don't think that this is a formulation that you have to take hours to get what you need from an eye look from. Like it didn't take me very long to get this eye look done today, and this is a pretty intricate eye look. So I think that if you're looking for just, a basic eye look, it wouldn't take you long to get one from this palette. I don't suffer from this formula attacking me in any way. So I'd be interested to have the new formulation in my collection just to see what the differences are, to be honest, because this is not the first Ace Beaute palette that I have in my collection. I have, I think, 5 other palettes from Ace Beaute in my collection, and I don't have a problem with any of them. So there's favorites and then there's non-favorites, but I think that is the same for every brand in my collection. Here's the true tea though, okay? I don't know if this is a $40 palette, to be honest, but with it on sale for $19.59, I would tell you to jump on it, run, get it, and jump on it. It is a really beautiful palette. It is a really fun palette also to use, and I think you can tell by my eye look and some of the other pictures that I showed you. I love playing with color. Anyways, that's part of my saying, right? I'm a fan of high-end colorful beauty. I love color. So a palette like this really leans into my gotta have this intricate, Instagram worthy eye look thought process in my head. But I do think that you could get very basic, very beautiful, but also basic eye looks from this palette as well. So I am gonna go pick another palette to use next week, and I will be right back. Because I'm really excited to use it, and because you all should have seen my haul of this palette in my last video, I am gonna pull in the Natasha Denona pastel palette for this week, and this is what it looks like. And we all know that I'm not 100% fond of pastels, but I'm anxious to use this, anxious to get this on my eyeballs, anxious to see how I'm gonna feel about it and feel about pastels from the mindset of a Natasha Denona formula, because you all know that she's my favorite out here. So I thought about pulling another palette into this just in case. The palette I thought to pull in for the just in case moments is this one. And this is by Lime Crime. So this is the Lime Crime Venus 3 palette. I do think that this is going to give me a lot of the depth that I think I may want, but then again, this is 15 pans of eyeshadow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'm pulling both of these in, but I am going to see what I can do with just the Natasha Denona palette. And if I don't end up using the Lime Crime palette, then we're not going to talk about it next week. We will only talk about this one, but I am so excited to get this on my face. So let me know what you guys think of the Ace Beaute Nostalgia palette. Do you have it? I'd be interested to know your thoughts on it. Do you have the old formula or the new formula? You'll have to let me know. Let me know also what your thoughts are on this palette and how we're going to feel about it. I may or may not bring this one in, so I would say let us know how you feel about the Lime Crime Venus palette as well. Lime Crime was a new formulation to me last year, and I kind of fell in love with it, so I think it would partner well with the Natasha Denona, and because it's got the deeper tones in it, I feel like it'll give me that depth that I'm feeling like I'm missing with the pastel palette. And I purchased the pastel palette knowing full well that it wasn't going to be a one and done eyeshadow palette for me, knowing that I was going to have to partner it with something else because of how I feel about pastels. So with that being said, please forgive my sick, tired voice. But I'm just glad I have a voice today because I knew I needed to film this, and because I didn't have a voice all week and they wouldn't let me go into stores because it's scary, you know, these days when people are sick. So if you can't pass attestation, you can't go in. That's how it goes. But I work from home. So blessed that I have that option. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. If you subscribe, please don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified every single time I upload a video. I just hope that April is treating you all kindly. I hope that you and yours are well, that you're good, that you're solid, that you're getting along as best you can in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in right now, that you are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends.